What's up, everybody? Welcome to Value Town episode 85. I'm ChanManV, and we're missing a couple guys in the video here, but I'm joined here by Noxious and Zalae. What's up, guys?
Greetings.
Pretty good. Why are we not there?
I don't know what happened there, but I will be fixing it. I'll definitely be fixing it too. You guys have gone stealth, like our stealth panthers that we have.
I'm not.
That we have
I'm a
stealth
cat
panthers
trick.
here. You're a cat trick?
Whenever
cat
whenever
trick?
ChanMan actually learns to put in cameras, I appear.
Yeah, how about you? It's a new
Shots
secret.
fired.
It's a new secret, baby. It's a new secret.
I love the art
Alright.
on Cat Trick. That's such a cool one.
I know, right? I'm so
Yeah,
glad they
that's
made like
true.
original art for it instead of because they had a lot of options that weren't cat in the hat type things that existed in the WoW TCG, but they completely innovated on it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I was just like, oh, this card's pretty good. I'm going to try it in some decks. And I was like, wait a minute. There's a
That's
cat
not
in a hat
Jungle
here.
Panther.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Oh man, good stuff, good stuff. But we got lots to talk about. It's just mid release, of course, in the adventure. So there's always a ton to talk about during this time. It's the most exciting time, and a lot of stuff that we did last week we're gonna do again. Just talk about some more decks that we've played this week with the Menagerie coming out. Talk about the actual boss encounters that we had, how we did, or what we thought of them, and then we'll go into talking about just maybe some conceptual decks too with this upcoming week. Zalae has a few that he's plugged in some angry chickens for those new cards for. So
Heck yeah.
we'll see some of those
Yeah,
in the
boy.
decks, and we'll have to replace them. And then
Yeah, we'll have a Mekkatorque's Workshop segment as well.
Yep.
I'm just done making the card for Zalae. It's already done. It's in the show notes, so we can check that later. But
okay, cool.
basically, this one is going to be a pretty, it's going to be a lot more fleshed out, I think, the Mekkatorque's Workshop segment, because
Yeah.
last time we didn't really have too much. Actually, we had none last time, and at the time prior to that, we didn't really have too many cards to present. This time around, we've got 5 of them, which I think is just enough to be interesting, and they're pretty cool too. I like them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one thing about Mekkatorque is that it's one thing to come up with just concepts and just kind of do it. It's another thing to actually try to refine the wordings and stuff like that. And I'm still trying to get better at that. Noxious has been doing this for a while, so he's really good at just what wording Blizzard typically uses and what would make sense for a lot of folks that like to do this type of thing. At the end, we're gonna do some viewer Q&A too, guys. So go ahead and tweet your questions to my Twitter account at ChanManV, and I'll try to get as many as I can. If we don't have enough in Twitter, then we'll take some from Twitch chat, like we always do. All right, guys. So our week in Hearthstone. Just kind of want to get a general gist, of course, like we always do. Like, what have you guys been doing, like in terms of Hearthstone?
Been playing
Oh,
curator decks.
I was going to
Card's
say.
awesome. It's a lot of fun to build around.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good shit. I like to hear that, because I've basically been doing the same, like trying out like all the shells where that card can fit. Have you been doing any of the shenanigans with Resurrect Priest or
Yes.
the whole RNG Babbling Book kind of
I've
deck?
played some Resurrect Priest. I haven't messed with Babbling Book too much. I've had Babbling Book mess with me. Always playing strike,
Babbling
right?
Book.
Like,
Every other game, man, baby.
Or it's Kabbalah's Tome into Kabbalah's Tome in a control matchup.
yeah,
Where
right.
you're like, all right, I'm winning this, and then they just absolutely trash you with a 1-drop.
yeah.
Oh man.
I literally had that happen to me at so I had a fireside. I hosted a fireside this past weekend.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
yeah, so we were playing, and of course we were playing standard with the new cards and stuff. And I think it was Strelzik that had Kabbalah's Tome into Kabbalah's Tome into Kabbalah's Tome, and it was just like ongoing. Yeah, and I felt bad for the guy that he was playing against, because it was just meme fest at that point. And then he casted Yogg at the very end, just for the
I mean,
fucking
it's
hell of it.
totally fine if it's like a matchup where it won't matter, but if you're playing a control deck and that hyper aggro mage that dumps everything they've got like as soon as possible and doesn't kill you, and then they just get the Babbling Book into like infinite tomes, that feels so awful. It's just so
Yeah.
bad.
It really
It's just
is.
like
It really
Yogg,
is.
right? Like,
Yeah, it's just as
kind
bad.
of like it's like they want to make it so that you're in the game at all times, so that there's like exciting comeback potential, but at the same time you feel robbed, right? So it's like
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
that's
there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we can talk maybe a little bit more about that as we, I guess, maybe take a look at what's coming up this week. Just generally this feeling of new card, just people adding cards to their decks and stuff. I know at least I have something small to say about that. But the boss, what did you think about the boss in the Menagerie this week? The heroic bosses and the class encounters.
I don't know, dude. They basically killed themselves.
Yeah, I like don't
They
remember them
basically
because they're
kill
pretty
themselves.
short.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 40-minute ride from like normal heroic. Didn't even change decks. It was just what? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my experience at least. It was kind of
Yeah,
weird.
it was.
Was this the one where the 10 mana deck thing?
Yeah, that's the
It's
one.
like it was like Astral Communion. It's like the easiest to
The guy
build a
had
deck
3
against.
drops.
Yeah.
I love deck building challenges like that, but they just didn't make it challenging, so it wasn't very interesting.
Even heroic was depressing, dude. I was like, okay, so I guess he's gonna start dropping Deathwing after Deathwing after like something like that.
That's what I was.
It's
No.
nothing. It's like he passed 3
He has a
turns.
regular deck. Dude. He has a
He
total
passed.
regular deck.
Yeah, it was so bad.
It is. Yeah, I was expecting a deck that had like literally all the high mana cards, and that's all he'd be playing, and he'd have 60 mana, or 60 health. Nope, he's playing 2 drops and 3 drops, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah, it was generally it was pretty easy. The whole face of your hero being taunt to. I mean, we've seen that many times already, like in Tavern Brawl and various other things. So yeah, this week I felt like wasn't very original, and like you said, was super easy. I think it took me an hour to finish all of them in total.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in the community have kind of mentioned that they felt like this time around the PvE wasn't exactly what they wanted, or at least like it was underwhelming. Because the thing is, they worked so hard on the aesthetic, right, of the entire set, as we spoke of last time. It's like they've pushed this crazy disco party thing with everybody from Azeroth showing up.
Yeah.
And then you go there and literally nothing happens. So it's just kind of
there's no
weird.
party. Everybody's sitting
there's
in the
no
corners.
parties.
The guys are on
Yeah.
one side, the girls are on the other. It's like middle school.
Curator is
parties.
killing himself, summoning angry chickens. You've got Ilhoof, who's just absolutely trashing himself with spawning an infinite amount of imps and trading them in the worst possible
That
way.
that one was super easy. That was
Just gives
weird.
up if you play an A-bomb. That's what I'm told. I didn't try that.
He gives up when he.
I think he just stops attacking. Is what I'm told.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
he just
Really?
stops,
Pretty hard to
'cause
lose.
he's not. He never wants to trigger those imps.
Oh, I see what you
Yeah.
mean.
Anyway,
Okay,
it's one
okay.
weird AI, and it makes sense. The thing is, like that boss should have had like 150 HP. On
Yeah,
heroic.
it should have been something ridiculously.
You know what
high.
I mean? Like, at least give me a run for my money. I feel like I would have probably struggled at 150 HP. You have to really be creative and draw okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
To be fair, like the chess event was so good, it's a tough act to follow, right?
I
Like,
know.
it's like
Yeah,
a-
but it doesn't have to even be the chess. I mean, even the week before the opera, the opera still wasn't as good as the chess, the boss. But the opera just seemed very, the theme of it kind of made up for the fact that some of the bosses were easy. And even the crone, right? A lot of us had super easy time just because of what line we chose happened to be perfect for it. Whether it was Inner Fire or just some aggro deck. But some other folks, it took them a few tries because of the whole twisting nether thing over and over again, right? With this one, I just felt it was super easy. I don't feel that a lot of people would have struggled, or a very large percentage of people would have struggled with the current one. Hoping the last one will be much better, at least harder. Just.
I
make
mean,
it more of
I
a puzzle.
think like the last wing has Nether Spite in it, and Nether Spite's one of the coolest bosses in the in the raid in the game. And we saw a screenshot of the fight from all the spoilers, and you saw 2 little portals that you had to block off with strategic positioning. The issue is, like, is it going to be as bad as what was the fight where we were protecting the crone with the 0-10? Like, there was an advantage for positioning there with taunt and charge, but it didn't matter. I just want to make sure. Like, I'd love to see that Nether Spite required a lot of thinking and specific, card approach or something.
Yeah, just more puzzle. We want more puzzle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's again, like, hopefully the new wing will have some cool bosses and it'll be a grand finale. Just this whole adventure. So let's talk about the cards. So cards from the Menagerie. Let's just take a look at those real quick, and I want to get your thoughts on any ones that have surprised you, any ones that have disappointed. Curator, you mentioned. So has that been the best card that you've seen from the this current release?
Yeah, it's probably the best one.
Yeah, I think so too. Catrick's pretty darn good too, man. Like, at least my
Catrick's pretty
experience.
good. I don't know if I was really surprised, but I guess maybe let's see, what's the full list of cards from this?
I'm showing on the
week?
screen right here. We got Zubat, Menagerie Warden, Nightbane Templar, Runic Egg, Purify, Avian Watcher, Curator, Menagerie Magician, Catrick, Babbling Book, and Fool's Bane.
Right. So Babbling Book was a little better than I expected.
Yeah.
It's like pretty playable. Runic Egg was worse than I expected. I had some
I
hope
thought
that
it
it
was
would be
so
like,
good, man. I thought it was gonna be an auto include and combo decks, and it just failed.
yeah, like I tried it in some of these combo warrior decks that want to cycle through their deck super quickly, and I was like, oh my god, I need this card now. Like having a Death Rattle sit and play for turns is not okay.
I know, that's right. It's true. It might have been
It's
better if
not
it was
okay.
1 health versus 2 health. It's not very easy to kill this thing.
Well, at 2 health, there's the Battle Rage Dream, right? Go
Okay,
vanish out Battle Rage.
Sure.
But yeah, it's the card's just a disaster. Also, the 2 health, it has like Taskmaster Dream, right? Turn 1 Runic Egg, turn 2 Taskmaster it, trade into your guy, get wrecked.
Yeah, sure.
But
Mhm.
yeah, no, it's so bad not getting that card immediately. I was just skipping turns, floating a bunch of mana because I didn't have things to do because I didn't draw that card soon enough.
Yeah.
I tried it in Aggro Rogue. Funny enough, that's where it shined for me. Like I tried the Runic Egg as an
that's
extra
true.
1-drop with Cold Bloods, Abusive,
Mhm.
and
I got
mean,
wrecked
it's
by
just
that
good
deck.
there. It just works out. So that's the only place where I found the Runic Egg work, which is funny because it just doesn't look like a fit for that deck. I guess it just doesn't seem like it should work, but it does.
So Avian Watcher came out yet? I feel like that's
Yep.
that's sort of a card for next week when we get Medivh's Valet. In my
It's
eyes,
still really
It's sort
good
of
right
like
now.
I tried it in Hunter. We can talk about Secret, and I just kind of threw it in there. I think what somebody from my stream suggested it, so I was like, okay, I'll try it because there's no 5-drop right now in that Secret deck for me, and it's okay. It's actually pretty decent. I mean, again, like a Hunter just curving into 5 is a pretty nice thing, and it usually works. It works the best when you have Snake Trap up. If you have Snake Trap up, it's pretty
Oh
consistent.
yeah, that's pretty sick with Snake Trap.
Yeah.
Pretty godlike. Yeah, it's like the ice block scenario where there's no trigger until you drop this guy.
Exactly. So it works pretty well there. Haven't gotten a chance to try it outside, like in Mage or anything like that, but Nightbane Templar, I think that's been a pretty solid card. I mean, Dragon Pally's been mixed review for me, but this card has been solid every time I played it, though.
I was actually a little disappointed by the card.
Really?
I played some Dragon Pally, and in my experience, well, I was playing both Technician and the Templar, and every time I had the scenario where I had both and I had to pick one, it seemed like Technician was better almost every time. Not like a lot better, but it seemed like the Templar was just playing into AoE a little bit more than I'd like very often.
Yeah.
So it actually seemed worse than Technician. I liked having the option of having both. I think it's a relevant, useful card to Dragon Paladin archetypes, but it was less good than I was hoping.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I think the card I think was designed for the like a world in which you're playing the zoo list instead of the dragon list, because I feel like the dragon deck has already got it's looking for high statted minions more so than a bunch of little things. It's kind of what I've noticed from the dragon list just across the board is usually what they go for. But in the zoo list, where you're running Zubot and you're running Menagerie Magician, for the mid-range paladin with that style, that card is great because you always have a leftover 1/1 and you can always find a way to buff it up. But yeah, I agree with you. I think in Dragon Paladin it just gets a little bit too awkward.
Yeah, I mean there are things like the ghoul right now, or the swipe answers it complete easily.
Maelstrom Portal and Shaman nowadays is being run as well, which makes everything even tougher. The ghoul kind of shuts it down in and of itself though. That card on its own shuts down so much. But there's the nature of rotations. Eventually, you might live in a world where one of them is there and the other not.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll take a look at decks and just a lot of these cards in the decks in a second here. But while we're on this page, what do you guys think of this week's cards coming out? Which one's the one that you're looking most forward to?
I want the 2 dragon cards the most personally. I don't think they're the most powerful cards. I think the most powerful competitive card is the Warlock discard 1-drop guy, Malchezaar's Imp, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's got to be the best card out of very probably the most effective competitive card. But I'm excited for the dragon ones because I want to play some control dragon decks.
So
Bookworm is just really. I think Bookworm is just way better than people say. I've heard so many different opinions on this, but I rate this card 9 out of 10 out of the set. It's for the archetypes it belongs to. It just fills up that curve that dragon decks just have jack shit to do on if they're controlling the board.
Well, 3. If it would, 3 attack minions are, I think, really big right now. There's very powerful ones like Violet Teacher and Fandral, and I mean, when I'm playing Priest, I feel like I have to have Shadowword Pain right now just because of those cards that lose you the game, and Bookworm kills those things, which is really, really nice.
And it lives.
Yeah, and it lives. It lives.
That's the sick part. It's actually got high health.
Yeah, so I'm interested to try it. I'm not sure it's gonna be good or powerful or not, but in the current meta, I could definitely see it being useful though. What do you guys think of Moonglade Portal?
Another thing for me to worry about when they go Raven Idol, and I hate that.
Yeah,
I just hate
I'm
it.
looking forward to trying it out. I want to see what it does to Druid. Druid's like, it's got like all this broken early game. It's a question of like, what do you do with the late game of your Druid deck? Are you, you play Malagos and Arcane Giants. You play a bunch of taunts. You play a bunch of just big stuff with Barns. There's a lot of ways to go.
Yeah, the fact that it heals versus like removal, like the Fireland Portal does, it'll be interesting to see if that has any huge effect too. Maybe it replaces Feral Rage. I don't know.
I mean, it's just such a good card for like the fact that they now have Touch, Feral Rage, and this for like an emergency heal is so big. The odds of them getting any of the three in an emergency situation are pretty huge. So suddenly the deck, like the class, even without putting it in their deck, gets more consistent. Like that's
a good point.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Scary thing. Yeah,
that's true. You get double draws too, man. It's gonna be.
I mean, summon nice. Sunwalker and get 6 health. It's one of those things where, as much as I love portals, it's just like the variance on them just kind of tilts me. It's like, oh, Earth Elemental versus Starving Buzzard on Firelands. Huge difference. Doomguard or Leroy versus Faceless Manipulator. And now on 6, there's like Sylvanas, Sunwalker.
So I mean, the 6 health or the 6 mana minions are better than
Sunwalker off that. Wow,
dude, just any of those.
Gross.
Sylvanas, Emperor, any of those. I mean, there's a lot of great 6 drops too.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be. I mean, that summon is going to be much more powerful than the Fireland Portal, even just being 1 mana up. So this could be a scary card too.
I mean,
it's gonna be crazy.
How often does that open up an archetype in which you can just play a bunch of taunts and try to keep them healed up with this, like as an emergency tool? So like playing a very defensive druid and including this, as you mentioned, in a slower top end deck.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could do that. I mean, the taunt decks in druid have never been. They've never been successful. I don't believe.
There have been some where they do well.
Yeah. Really, ones with like Arakoa and stuff like that.
With the taunt druid here and there.
Yeah. Okay. I guess when it's
oh
super
my god,
active.
Arakoa from this. I'm just puking my mouth.
Yeah. True. But I'm just trying to think of like,
nasty. Dude. I mean, that is absolutely nasty. Oh god.
That's what I told you, man. 6 cost minions are. It's probably the second best. I would say it's the second best to 8 drops. Yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah.
I just
really
man, the variance on that one is so huge.
Yeah. So anyways, these cards will be coming out tomorrow, and we'll get a chance to play with them. all the cards tomorrow. Wait, actually, Ethereal Peddler. You guys like that at all?
Which one's that?
It's
that's the
5/6
rogue one.
Yeah, the rogue one that reduces the cost.
Yeah, I want to see how that goes. I definitely want to. That's something I want to see how it goes. You play that with Swashbuckler, who worked out a little better than I expected, and 2-drop, and like the 1 and 2 drops are kind of solid on their own. So if you can get a discount from your 5 mana 5/6, then that's a powerful thing, right?
Yeah, it could be interesting. It's just I don't see this card fitting right now in any of the rogues that are being played, but I don't know. Maybe it can start something new.
Aggro rogue can use that kind of stuff. Honestly, it's like I say tempo, not aggro, but like more of a tempo-ish rogue.
Tempo, that's the dream.
I mean, it's a 5 mana
rogue.
5/6. It's pretty huge stat-wise. And rogues can abuse that a bit if they get a discount on other class cards.
Yeah,
it lets them take advantage of the fact that Burglar and Huckster may not give them anything they need right away. I mean, if you get a cheap spell from Swashbuckler or Huckster, and then you find a way to use those spells to trigger combos, it gets pretty stupid.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. All right, well, why don't we talk about decks now? Let's go and go to our deck screen here. And we've got a lot of them to talk about this week. And this is a mixture, guys, of decks we played this week, whether they're fun or competitive. And then Zalae's got actually some conceptual decks just to talk about this week, with the upcoming cards. So why don't we start with your Curator Warrior, Noxious, since I know you played a lot of that.
I
recently.
did, but it's not my deck. I was talking about the deck with Black Wolf, which is a player. I guess I think he's like 16 right now. He's a pretty young player, a local player in Montreal, and I think he's pushing for top 100 again this season. And he came up with this build, which is really interesting because when he gave me the list, I'm like, this is the worst Control Warrior list I've absolutely ever seen. It's got to be worse than every list I've played. You're not running Acolytes, playing Scarabs and Curator at the top end. What does that accomplish? And then I played the deck, and surprisingly, I do better with it than I've done with any Control Warrior that I've ever played, which is super funny to me because it just seems like a worse version of what I'd usually play.
Right.
And it really comes down to the fact that you're running Curator in it, a Corrupted Seer for the Murloc enabler, 2 Scarabs instead of Acolytes of Pain, and you're running Alexstrasza as your dragon. So whenever you play Curator, you gain, a defensive line, and you fetch Alexstrasza from your deck, which is really powerful as a finisher enabler.
Is Jeweled Scarab better than Fierce Monkey? Because to me, Fierce Monkey as a beast is like one of the big appeals to Curator and Warrior.
Yeah, I found the opposite actually, because the way the Scarab works is you often end up drawing one, statistically before the rest, and you'll get a 3-drop from it. So you get Bash, Shield Block, Ghoul, Fierce Monkey. Honestly, the range of stuff you get from it, King's Defender, is massive. And even Earthling Farseer can save your butt. So the fact that Bash and Shield Block are in that slot with Ravaging Ghoul even, means the Scarab just always nets you more value than itself. And in control matchups, what's interesting about the Scarab is it usually requires a bit of attention from the opponent. And if they don't deal with it, then suddenly your Ghoul on 3 is better because you can AoE down, say, 3-2. So you always find a way to use the Scarab's leftover body. I was really surprised by the effectiveness of the card. Honestly, like that's been, I don't know, this deck just surprised me completely.
And what do you think about the Corrupted Seer? Because I see that card and I just see hot garbage.
Really? I love that card now.
ChanManV, I see hot garbage. Anybody who sees this and doesn't see hot garbage is out of their fucking mind. It is absolute hot garbage when you look at it. And then you play it. I think you played in any deck. You played in any deck, and it's bad. But in this list, because it's so the thing with the Corrupted Seer and Warrior is this redundancy with Ravaging Ghoul. It's redundancy with the 2 damage, the AoE from Revenge. It's redundancy for Execute enablers. It's redundancy for a potential Brawl late game. And the fact that you always get like a 3rd Ghoul guaranteed in your deck that you can fetch from Curator for those late game clears is insane. Like Corrupted Seer has allowed me to clear more Call of the Wilds than I care to think about at this point. Like it's done more work for me against Call of the Wild than the whole Brawls ever did. Like it kills the Hover guaranteed, and it always leaves an Execute to be played afterwards, or if you want, you've got a Revenge if you're low on health,
or a Slam.
Yeah, it's just curving perfectly on 8 with Slam, Revenge, War Axe hit, Execute, Slam.
The body makes a big deal too. Like having a 2/3 on the board afterwards to fight off whatever's left against like Shaman or against any of the aggro decks. It's actually really good. Like I've been trying out recently just in control decks, and I've really liked this, particularly classes that you typically don't have any AoE that's effective, like Druid, for instance, right? You're not playing Starfall and things like that. So I've just been trying out Corrupted Seer, and it's been doing really well given how aggressive the meta is right now.
Yeah,
I want to talk about like Bran and Azure Drake in this deck. So Azure Drake for a 2nd dragon for when you naturally draw the Alexstrasza, and Bran for synergy with like Ravaging Ghoul and Jeweled Scarab and occasionally something like Elise or whatever.
Yeah, the problem I ran into is like very often, basically it comes down to that. If you ever get to a turn where you play Curator with this deck, you've usually won. Yeah, like that's kind of how Warriors play in general, right? If you get to turn 7 and you have time to play a 4/6 with Taunt and nothing else, you've probably won the game at that point. And drawing the other cards beforehand doesn't matter when you draw them, because you can always play Scarabs alone. Alexstrasza clutters your hand, doesn't really matter much because you'll need it at some point. And I find that with the amount of removal you've got in the deck, I think the Bloodhoof Braves are kind of what makes the deck it makes the deck work. Which is weird to say because it's not like a control tool, but it just lets you stall that much longer. So I climbed from rank 10 with this deck to I'm like 1 game away from Legend today. Like I haven't had much time to play, so I just need to get 1 extra win with this, and I'll be in. But it's really it's a really interesting twist on Control Warrior. Like that's the thing that I love most is Curator's been the biggest deck building challenge I've encountered, and it's so fun.
Yeah,
it's so fun. I agree.
Cool.
It's a great card. It's sort of like Reno in that regard, right? But it's less it's less feels bad to play against.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
The guy
it's
doesn't
kind
get
of toxic
29
in,
health,
in
or-
some classes, but like this type of deck is basically where would you never play Curator? All right, let's make a build. Like it's just that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and it's not that vastly different than the Control Warrior package that you generally have. Like, really, the only things that are different, like you said, are Scarab and Curator, and Corrupted Seer, and then I guess you have an Elise too. Just and a lot of Control Warriors have Elise too. So
I'm not even sold on the Elise. I don't think she's that great. I probably cut her out for Bran at some point. Like,
Okay, so you don't go
I don't know.
into that the monkey and
I mean, you get into fatigue. The issue is the deck. Usually, you need to use all your tools, and rolling the dice on legendaries. I mean, I guess it's useful, but most of the time it's not. The 3/5 body could be a lot of things, and you'd be okay with it.
right. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. All right, so that's a really cool war. You guys should check it out. Obviously, it's a legend capable deck. Given that Noxious is one, he's at the
Yeah, Black
gatekeeper
Wolf's
right
in
now.
like top 200 right now.
Yeah.
I think.
I want to say one reason Elise is worse than usual in this deck is because you're playing Jeweled Scarab instead of Acolyte of Pain, right? Usually the point of Elise is to reroll those card draw cards that you don't want to play in a fatigue style game, and you do want to play Jeweled Scarab in a fatigue style game. You don't want
I mean,
to play
you'll
Acolyte.
get the extra. You can always get the Acolyte from it, right, and cycle that one out. But the thing is, like, you can always pick up an extra 3-drop that you'll cycle into another legendary.
Three's pretty good
But-
too. Yeah, the
I
3-drop
don't
for
know, like-
Warrior is really good actually.
Like in the mirror, one of the keys to winning is really just playing Curator. Literally, when you've drawn the 2 Scarabs and the Alex and the Corrupted Seer, naturally, right? Because you don't want
Yeah.
to thin your deck by 3 cards. In the mirror match, like it's just a bad thing. I know, like Black Wolf played against Fibonacci earlier in a control mirror, and he won by a tiny margin. And I think if he'd drawn 1 extra card with Curator, he lost. So it's one of those things where it's not even that great against the mirror matches. Like that's not a deck you tech for that. But against all the onslaught of Shaman, Hunter, Zoo, Druid, this just does so well.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so next up, let's talk about a Secret Hunter. So I've been playing some Secret Hunter. I've been playing all kinds of things, but one of the things I played recently was Secret Hunter. Figured it would be a really great discussion point here. Just bringing it up, sorry. So here we go. This is like my own, so there's probably a better version of it out on wherever Hardphone or whatever site that has all the top decks. Tempostorm.com for all the top decks, of course. But this one generally has a lot of the things that all of those have, which are the 2 Secret Keepers, tons of Secret, including Catrick, the new one, the Kindly Grandmother, Animal Companion, Cloaked Huntress, Deadly Shot, Eagle Horn Bow, Kill Command, Houndmaster. I do have an Avian Watcher in this one, at least just for discussion points, and then Savannah Highmane, and then of course Called Wild. So this deck, those swings, those Cloaked Huntress swings, are so huge. Like they're game winning. Like whenever you can play Cloaked Huntress and then play two Secrets, that's usually enough to just get you enough tempo in any hunter. Anybody who's played Hunter knows what I'm talking about with tempo in Hunter. It just gets you that one turn that you need, and then like you win the game as long as you have Call to Wild at the end. So it's been incredibly good. And Secret Keeper, oh my god, Secret Keeper just wins you the game sometimes right off the bat, which can be crazy. Yeah.
I'm coining War Access to kill it. Yeah, that's how bad it's gotten. Like I'm just.
Well, I mean, coining War Access to kill any 1-drop.
But killing a 1/2 Secret Keeper with this just feels meh. When I've got a slam in the back end with I've got a bash, a slam, like a ghoul, and everything else. I'm just like, all right, I probably have to commit to kill this one. It just depresses me.
Dude,
it makes me happy. I'm so happy axing that 1-drop.
Oh, sure.
Like, yes, that thing dies.
Kill the fiery bat.
Kill the fiery bat.
I'm in.
Yeah. It feels pretty bad when your opponent though has this deck and they have the coin, they Secret Keeper coin into Hunters and then just dump their whole hand, and then they have just a ridiculous board that doesn't lose anything.
I had a recent game against somebody who's like around top 100 legend, and he went like turn 3 Huntress, like 3 Secrets, and I was like, oh man, I'm probably screwed. But then the rest of the game, his deck was just so bad that I managed to win anyway.
Just drew terribly, yeah. Just drawing
What were you playing at that time?
So what?
What were you playing at that time? Because I'm interested.
I don't remember.
Okay, because
really
like
don't.
some decks just completely get, once you stabilize, there's no way the hunter with 1 card a turn is gonna stabilize and come back, unless they just god draw you. Just runner every single card they need. But some other times, like there's decks against which you're still screwed. Like the hunter has time to take his time, and those secrets take you so much effort to defuse. It's so problematic. Like when they get a cat trick into Houndmaster, after you've tried to trigger 2 secrets, killed the cloaked huntress, or if they pick up a bow, or if they have a bow and that comes down, it's really bad.
No, it works really well against the aggro decks. That's kind of why I've been playing it recently. Just all the shamans. This does well against shaman, especially when you get that avian watcher and you get that taunt. Just the upgrade to that. It's really it's like it almost wins you the game actually if you get that.
4/7 taunt is really big for 5 mana. Like when that works.
And then if you have a cat trick and they're like they cast whatever on it, then you still have tempo on the board. So. This is like really good against the meta right now, and I think we've seen a few legend players get to top 100 with this deck too. So, it's a fun one. It's definitely the hunter deck I prefer to play if I play hunter, because all the other decks are kind of boring for me at this point. Yeah. So,
well, if you like this, you're gonna love the Barnes Yashar's secret deck, right? Like there's a list that runs.
Barnes Yashar's secret deck.
It runs literally only spells like Arcane Shot, On the Hunt, Deadly Shot, all the secrets in the world. And Call the Wild, no high mains, and it runs 1 Barnes, 1 Yasharj, and sometimes you just crazy. Auto win because you mulligan into Barnes and you just play it. You get Yasharj, who brings out Yasharj, and that's it. Now you can just take your time and win.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Actually.
I mean, I'm sure you'd love it. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Next up, I got just a Dragon Pally. So I played a little bit of Dragon Pally too, and. This is kind of like the shell. I've tried all kinds of different things, and I know Zalae, you've played a little bit of Dragon Pally this week too. Given that the Nightbane Templar came out, I figured this was a good time. And this has Finley in it. It's got a quality Fairy Dragon, Pyromancer, Nightbane Templar, Consecrate, Keeper of Aldemine, True Silver, Twilight Guardian, Azure Drake, Blackwing Corruptor. New card like a Consort. It's not a new card, but a card that nobody ever plays. But Consort, Emperor Thorzan, Ivory Knight, Chillmaw, Curator, the Ragnaros, the Light Lord, Tyrion, Nefarian, and Ysera. So lots of dragons. You're pretty much never ever going to be, in that situation where you can't enable one of those cards that needs a dragon.
Right.
But this card, this deck for me, it's just like, when you're hitting the curve, it's amazing, of course. But the moment you lose tempo, it's so hard to catch up. Like I feel like I'm just constantly behind, especially with some of these more aggro tempo decks. It's like, how do I beat?
It definitely looks like a control deck you have built here, and so Doomsayer comes to mind. So when you have those turns, if you ever get the Pyro Equality turn, it's nice to follow that up with the Doomsayer so that it kind of nullifies your opponent's next turn. You get to develop onto an empty board, right? If you just go Pyro Equality, it eats up most of your turn. Your opponent plays something big, and you're behind again. You go Pyro Equality, Doomsayer, then your opponent skips the turn. Then you get to play something big on an empty board. You're ahead. That's what you want.
Yeah. I have
and also just to survive the early game where you're so weak, right? Like you have Finley on 1, Fairy Dragon, Pyro on 2, Templar on 3. Like you have barely any plays in the first 3 turns. It's just not enough to keep up with anything that's...
That's been my experience with just Dragon Paladin in general. But the issue is, I mean, you can definitely curve it down lower, like a lot lower. This is like a very, very... This is mostly a deck I'd play if mid-range Paladin was around the ladder and I wanted to beat it. Like they take your time.
That's right.
They take their time. You take your time. They're not going to burst you down, and you just keep pounding.
Just have more
legendaries. Stuff. Yeah, exactly. But in a world where Druid's putting down, 5/5 tigers, and you're like, oh well, shit.
Dang it.
Like I've been fighting off those 1-mana 4/4s that draw them a card all game, and then they come down with this. What do? And they play a consort into it, you lose. This there's a meta in which this shines. I just don't think it's there yet. Like you can tweak this to make it a lot faster.
Yeah. What kind of dragon deck were you playing, Sally?
Mine's like a tempo aggressive dragon deck. I got
let me bring it up.
Let me that bad boy.
Actually, I have it. Here we go. All right.
Because I have these tools like Aldor and Keeper of Alderman. I'm just trying to beat people up. I've got some really sketchy cards in there. Like there's one Argent Lance.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
I love
Argent
Lance,
dude.
baby.
I fucking love that card.
Yes.
It's not a particularly good card, but it's like passable. And the thing is, I needed another play in the first 2 turns. I felt like 6 was like the minimum number of cards I wanted to have in the first 2 turns. Because I look at the Dragon package and I'm thinking to myself, this is sort of like a tempo deck. I want to exploit Dragon Consort, right? It's not a control card. It's a tempo card. And so to be doing that kind of thing, I cut the pyro quality instead. I just play dudes on curve and try and get ahead, right? Aldor helps me get ahead.
Yep.
Ultimate gets me ahead. These big 3-drops, Technician, Templar, these things, Blackwing Corruptor, all that stuff just helps me get ahead and push that lead. So Huge Toad's like a sketchy looking card, but like 2-drops in Hearthstone are generally pretty bad right now. If you're not playing Druid for Wild Growth or Warrior for War-X or a Shaman for Totem Golem, you're just struggling on turn 2, and Huge Toad's about the best thing you can do. You can hope to trade with their Totem Golem and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the Huge Toad's obviously the beast for the Curator. You have Finley for 1 Murloc, and then you have Bajillion Dragons you can draw off Curator. And so I was just trying to jam stuff on curve, get ahead, and beat them up is the game plan there. And for a while it worked. I won 70% of my first 20 games. I was excited. I was like, is this deck actually good? I thought this was terrible. And then I kept playing games. I was like, oh, yeah, it's not actually.
It's actually not,
it's not that
I want
good.
to be.
Exactly.
I probably get to
I mean, maybe when we
but
get the Nether Spite, like as soon as we get that new little 2-drop.
Yeah,
like,
then you get to reevaluate.
Yeah, we might
Which
have
2-drop?
something on our hands.
Which
one? The 2-mana 1/3 if you have a dragon in hand, Battlecry, discover.
Oh, Discover a Dragon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Historian. Yeah.
Pretty excited
What
for
are your
that.
thoughts on Dragon Consort?
It's great.
Dragon Consort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you? I mean,
It's great. Paladin doesn't do a good job of giving it a home. If it were in the class like Druid or something, it
well,
might
of
be
course,
insane.
yeah. That'd be amazing in Druid. Holy crap.
Don't.
Yeah.
Still more balanced than Fandral.
Still more balanced.
Yeah,
than
Fandral is absurd.
Yes, still more balanced than Fandral. I'll agree with that. Okay,
Oh my God.
let's see.
You interviewed at that Fandral. It's like, well, Skama's this guy.
Yeah, like-
I know.
Did I even play this
Oh,
game? Like,
man.
I like when they go well played. You're like, I didn't play. Like, I literally just sat there, got bent over, rammed in every possible orifice, and I died. So I didn't play the game. Well played too, sir.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. What do we got next here? Let's see. The next thing we can talk about. See some of the maybe some of the decks with the. Actually, no. We're gonna continue on this week. So we have a Malagos Druid you wanted to talk about. Zalae, that's actually a good. I mean, a deck that's competing at highest levels. So
Yeah,
what do you
it's
think?
not really new with cards this week, is it? It's just kind of like a friendly reminder that Arcane Giant's a good card, and this is a sweet deck that's just really really effective if you're playing it well.
Yeah.
So it's something along these lines. We've seen people like 6-0 using this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
The idea is like the Moonfire Living Root stuff is really bad against control decks. So for one card, you put a Malagos in there, and those cards become useful again.
Yeah.
And if you're playing against an aggressive deck, the Moonfire and Living Roots are just kind of like pretty good, cheap removal. Use with an Azure Drake or a Thalanos or something. And Malagos is just like a random 4/12 in the late game. It's not good, but it's more there to help you in the slower matchups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the deck just in general because one of the things that I've been trying to do in Yogg Druid is remove the Mire Keepers like
Mhm.
one at a time. I end up just cutting them because that's
Yeah, I
the
don't
flex spot. And I'm like, I still don't know what I'd replace them by that wins me the game more often than not. And then you look at
Right.
this package and it's like, all right, there we go. We've got like the perfect combination there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Druid's just such a cheaty class. Like, you're just trying to innovate or wild growth out a teacher or a Fandral. Like, you just steal games on turn 1 and 2. Innovate wild growth with a Fandral teacher.
Yeah.
And if you don't steal a game that way, you try and steal the game with Yogg. You're just like, I'm just gonna.
It is. I mean,
Rogue is
it
a
feels
beast.
shitty
Nah.
losing to Druid. It does feel shitty
Yeah.
losing to Druid, like Tempo or Token Druid these days, especially with Yogg. And then you throw in the Giants on top of that. Oh man, it's just like, man, can you make me feel any worse?
At
But
least
I
they
can
don't
see
have
this
extra
being
lore
super
anymore,
strong.
dude. That would be like, if like I'm still not sure if they'd play lore over Nourish. That's the scary fucking part. Like I'm looking at the Nourish potential right now in the meta with not Barnes but Fandral around and just the refuel of those massive spell heavy Yogs. I'm like, maybe Nourish would just be better in that deck, even if lore was around. Like that's how weird it's become.
Oh, if it was,
Wow.
you mean if it was the
If it
old
was the
lore?
the
Yeah.
old way it used to work. I'm just like,
Yeah,
I mean, Nourish
I think
just
you could be
seems
right.
busted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it is crazy right with Fandral. It happens so often too. I feel like anytime Fandral lives, it's like, okay, they got nourished next. It's just
Dude, it's, like they might just get one Raven Idol and you just got Arcane elected for one. Like just
True.
Yeah.
compute that
true.
and understand how inane the cost of that card is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Raven Idol's so good in a deck with 2 Arcane Giants. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like generally keeping Raven Idol in most Druid decks off the mulligan. Like, you're looking for Wild Growth and Innervate on turn 1 is the idea, right? But I'd rather mulligan into those cards. It's lower odds, but it's like more upside kind of thing because you have a better deck left over.
Right.
But man, Raven Idol on 1 when you have Arcane Giants in your deck, it's suddenly a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, you just like drawing a coin.
That's true. That's true.
That's
or
exactly
Innervate
what
if
it
you hit
feels
both
like.
Arcane Giants.
Oh man. Ugh.
I don't know about
It's
you
like
guys.
I just innervated for 4 mana. How you feeling now? It's like, oh hi, welcome to Druidland. I mean, the worst part is when they literally like turn 6 drop a giant alone. You're like, oh,
dang
okay.
it, that's big.
It's like, oh, I guess I have to deal with this. And sometimes you'll let it live for 1 turn because you don't have the immediate answer, and then they just follow it up with like a nourish. They draw more stuff, and you still have an 8/8 to handle. They have a full hand, and they're transitioning into their late game, which just hurts.
Whatever happens if druids couldn't remove big minions too? Because I feel like every time I play against this druid, they have mulches like for days. They just get mulches from the idols, and it's just like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. All right, next one we have. Let's see. You wanted to talk about Anything deck, right? Where's that Anything deck?
Murloc Valley.
I don't think it's that different than. Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Tyrion. So Curator Tyrion. That's not the list you usually see.
Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's talk about this one. So we got Curator in it, and
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to build more Curator decks, and with Curator, the struggle is always that it's so hard to get a good Murloc. And in Anything Paladin, the Murloc is actually the best part of what the Curator's drawing, right? You're like you're curatoring to draw a Murloc, and then I guess I got a Stampeding Kodo or an Azure Drake, whatever. It's a pretty fun deck. It has been really terrible in the past day or two, where everyone's just like, Aggro Shaman's the best thing ever, and I just want to play Aggro Shaman.
Yep.
End
of the season, man. That's what it's like.
Yeah. But in other metagames, like there are times correct to DQ it with a deck like this. Like lately, I've been seeing on High Legend Ladder, I queue into the same guy like 3-4 times in a row pretty often.
Oh, God.
So if I queue into a Control Warrior, it's really good to have this deck on standby, ready to go, right? So I'm playing my normal deck, and then I queue into a Control Warrior. I sit there and lose a 20-minute game, and then I'm like, all right, Murloc Paladin, who's winning this one?
That's right.
Dude, I win the matchup because of Corrupted Seer. Oh, I've beaten 3 of them in a row thanks to the lovely double Corrupted Seer on second infin.
Feels good. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Great.
I'm so happy. That's such a sick tech. Oh my god.
I mean, Scarab into Cold Lateral Gold, dude. You should see their
in
face.
My fucking Control Warrior. Oh my god.
Dude,
that's beautiful.
You Scarab into Cold Lateral Gold.
Kill nothing.
Don't kill any cards.
So you don't have any Ivory Knight in this. So you're not greedy going for that 3rd Anything or 4th Anything.
No, I mean I've got enough. I'm not a big fan of the Ivory Knight. I felt like Ivory Knight is really a 30th sort of filler card type of thing. When I played it, I didn't like it. The information it gives away from the heal is kind of a bummer. And so when I'm fitting in the Curator package, I don't have room for it. You could play Ivory Knight over the Curator package, but it's Curator week, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind
like
a Barnes
great
in this
Murloc
list,
Valley.
by the way. Like, how would Barnes fare? If you just get out of Murloc, it's good. If you get out Loot Hoarder, it's good.
Yep.
Get out Doomsayer, it forces a trade. You get out Last Guy.
Doomsayer is not a good outcome. You're giving your opponent potential options to let the Doomsayer go off. Like, you do not want a 1/1 Doomsayer. But you're right. If you hit a Murloc, it's good. If you hit Tyrion, it's good. But then, of course, if you hit like Kodo and Azure Drake and Aldor, and it's a bit of a brick.
Yeah, definitely a lot of misses there.
But like, I definitely thought about Barnes in the deck, and it's possible. Like if you want to put a Barnes in the deck, I'm not going to judge you. I think it's totally fine.
I'm not going to sling feasts at you. I'm completely nice.
That's good.
I think Barnes is just like seen a lot of the all the lists that I've seen from Anything Can Happen that play Tyrion tend to try to include Barnes, but they also don't play Curator, so that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, finding the Murlocs is basically the concept there. I'm just glad to see Kodo in the decks, man. Been missing some Kodos. Kodo always tries to get back in some of the or at least the metagame with Hunter for a brief time months ago, and then it's good to see at least this in here, even though it's probably just you that's playing Kodo and nobody else. I don't know, unless they have
pretty good in Menagerie.
Actually, you have Aldor, so yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of synergy there. So
it's always good in Pally.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. Okay, let's talk about some conceptual decks here. And Zalae, you have a Dragon Control Warrior you wanted to talk about here?
Heck
Let's
yeah.
see.
I want
All right,
to.
let's talk about this.
So the thing with these, I've always wanted to build Dragon Control Warrior, right? Like who hasn't? But maybe that's just me. I love control decks in general. I like Warrior in general.
too.
I like dragons in general. It's like the holy trinity of beautiful things. But the cards just aren't there. I go to build the deck and I'm like, okay, I need like at least like 7 dragons to make this thing working, and probably more than that. And you just can't find them. So first of all, I want to mention this fairy dragon should not be in the deck. Like I threw this together pretty quickly, and I started with like a regular aggro dragon warrior and changed some cards around. The fairy dragon should be, I don't know, not that. The ancient warrior is Nether Spite Historian, and 2-mana 1/3. If you have a dragon in hand, discover a dragon.
Okay.
And the priestess of Elune is Bookworm, the 6-mana 3/6 dragon. That's a really important word on there. That says if you have a dragon in hand, Shadow Word Pain something. Destroy minion 3 or less attack.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, there were never enough cards that said dragon on them that were playable in his control deck, and now we get Bookworm, which does that. It fits a control deck, and it says dragon on it, so you can like enable these dragon synergies for Alex Strauss's champion while not having to put a Draconic Crush in your deck and be forced to play like an aggressive deck.
Yeah.
And the Nether Spite Historian as well. It means you don't have to play cards like Alex Strauss and Ysera, because you can probably discover a high-value dragon in the matchups where you want it, and there are a lot of matchups where you really don't want to draw any 9-drops, and so it's nice to have the flexibility to pick something cheaper off of your 2.
That's a really good point, actually.
Okay.
I love that. Good call.
Also, the 2-mana 1/3, like you kind of have to compare it to Peddler, which I saw the card when I was first analyzing it. I was like, okay, so 2-mana 2/2, discover a card. It's like it goes in Zoo, which is a tempo deck, and it's 2-mana 2/2. It's like poor tempo, right? But drawing a card really matters. Like you get a 1/3 instead of a 2/2. You're discovering a dragon instead of a 1-drop. It's the main thing that makes it worse is that you have to have a dragon in hand for it to work. But
you're likely to have one.
I think it's. I mean, you just build your deck around it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Make it work. Most of the time, it works. So yeah, you cut the fairy dragon for I don't know what.
So here's a question, here's a question for the deck, because like basically this is like the dragon warrior that's aggressive right now. All you have to do is take out like a few cards and you end up with that list, right?
Yeah.
So one of the big questions I have is like, how could you make this deck more quote unquote control?
Right. Well,
pushing it to be because like fairy dragon, as you mentioned, I don't think is necessarily
that shouldn't be there
a fit, because it's more the aggro list. So you'd cut like Watchers or Nether Spies. Fairy dragon could be a later game card. I mean, you could go really deep on the dragons, but I think more control tools would be better, like even Brawl, unless you plan to be on board. So
yeah, it's probably supposed to be. Yeah.
Brawl,
Do you have enough dragons if you put Brawl in instead of fairy dragon? Let's see. The dragon count is we have
4,
not a lot.
6. Well, you'd have the
Six.
bookworms. Don't forget about those, right?
Yeah, it's Twilight Guardian, Azure Drake, and Bookworm. So you probably have to put some 9s in there.
Okay.
Just to have dragons.
I mean, another question is there enough power in this deck to be like, in terms of just damage range? Like, I mean, any class that can't heal, definitely this deck has enough range to kill. But what about like a priest? You know, like is it gonna be how hard is it gonna be to kill a priest with this type of deck?
It's gonna be nearly impossible, I think.
Yeah. I don't know,
like because of the way priest works.
Okay, you need a Justicar in here. That's another thing I forgot when I was building this deck. I really threw this thing together quickly. Obviously, you have Justicar in a control deck. So you need Justicar and you need a couple dragons. You don't want the fairy dragons. And just keep in mind, like the Nether Spite Historian's probably going to give you at least one of the 9-drop dragons between the two of them over the course of the game. So if you're trying to fatigue this deck, like the 2-drops are a lot more value than they look like.
I mean, you could play Chillma in there as another big drop that also gives you the option of being quote-unquote control and beat the aggro list. Like the question,
replacing a Brawl maybe.
Yeah, you know, like you cut maybe a Brawl and you add a dragon that that basically acts as one. That could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the curator list basically brings out in this deck is basically monkey and any dragon you're looking for, right?
Yeah. And no Murloc.
Is there a world?
Because like you don't want Finley. You could think about Corrupted Seer, but
meh. I don't think in this deck it fits as well.
Yeah, it's
the
possible.
The other deck is very different.
You could consider the 2-mana 1/1, the one you had in that other deck for their beast, right?
Yeah, okay.
That versus monkey. I'm not really sure. It's kind of takes some thought to figure that decision out.
Yeah,
you can play one of each.
This is definitely cool, though. I mean, this is not the aggressive Dragon War, which I think everybody's just tired of seeing.
No.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like a finesse control warrior, which is cool.
Like
That's really
mid-range
cool.
Dragon War is what it
Yeah,
is without
yeah.
being on the aggro side ever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw together like a priest and a paladin as well, but I didn't have time. But like paladin in particular uses bookworm better than other decks because you have Keeper of Uldaman and Aldor to enable that bookworm to kill anything.
It's so insane. It is
that
so
is
insane.
crazy, actually. That combo would be really.
I mean, you don't
really
even
good.
need it. It's like it's an additional way for you to remove the board, which I think is fantastic. Because spot removal in Paladin isn't exactly their strong suit. Like they have one big AOE and they can swing with weapons, but when it comes to actually killing something outright, like one target, yeah, that's pretty tough. So
Yeah, they used to have the Kodo, but you could play around it to a degree, right? Or at least.
I mean, 2 attack is
3 attack.
And also, let's see, Paladin didn't really have a 6-drop before, right? Like Warrior has like Just Cars, Sylvan 6, whereas some kind of control dragon Paladin deck, you just don't really have anything on 6, so gaining Bookworm is so huge.
Mm-hmm.